If you're watching this right now, it's because you've reached that point, that silent, intimate, unbearable moment when something inside you starts screaming. You may not be able to name exactly what's happening, but you feel it. You feel that you can no longer keep living the same way. It's as if there's an internal fracture, an invisible rupture separating who you are from who you've been pretending to be. This isn't coincidence, it's inevitability. At some point in the human journey, everyone faces this interior collapse. Most ignore it, numbed by the comfort of routine or paralyzed by the fear of change. But for some people, and people like you, that collapse becomes a calling, an impulse that can no longer be silenced. Carl Gustav Jung described this phenomenon as the call to individuation, a psychic process in which the soul refuses to keep living behind the masks built to please, to survive, and to fit in. This video is not just content, it's a mirror, a symbolic reflection that reaches you at exactly the moment when your conscious mind has run out of answers, but your unconscious already knows it's time to move. This is the moment when ordinary life begins to reveal its true face. An automated existence shaped by other people's expectations, worn-out social roles and promises that are never fulfilled. Maybe you're in a relationship that slowly drains your energy. Maybe you're in a job that pays the bills but quietly assassinates your soul, day after day. Maybe what traps you is more subtle. The shame of disappointing your parents, the fear of not being accepted, the weight of a path that was laid out for you, but never by you. Jung warned us that the greatest danger of modern life isn't chaos, it's unconscious adaptation to the inauthentic. The real catastrophe is living a life that isn't yours and not even realizing it. And that's precisely why the calling always arrives through suffering. When the psyche tried in every subtle way to alert the ego, through dreams, silent crises, emotional exhaustion, and was ignored, it raises the volume. What was once discomfort becomes despair. What was once doubt becomes anguish. What was once fatigue becomes collapse. And then something curious happens. You start attracting exactly the messages, symbols, and signs you need to awaken, not because the universe is magical, but because your soul is actively searching for the keys to escape its internal prison. That's the moment you find videos like this one. Because the unconscious, as Jung described, has a symbolic intelligence, and it reveals itself when the ego is finally ready to listen. Most people live their lives as functional zombies. They wake up, work, produce, obey, and repeat. They think this is normal, but it isn't. It's merely common. And common is not the same as healthy. From an early age, you were taught to seek stability, to follow rules, to fit in, to not make too much noise. The message was clear: don't question, be grateful, do what's right. But right for whom? Jung wrote that the greatest threat to the individual soul in modernity isn't madness or misery. It's massification, the transformation of a human being into a statistical cog, a replaceable piece inside a system that values conformity over authenticity. When you start feeling suffocated by your own routine, that feeling isn't a flaw, it's a signal, a silent cry from your psyche saying this is not you. You may have followed every rule, graduated, got the job, found a partner, posted smiling photos, and yet you feel empty, as if there's a part of you watching everything from the outside. That feeling of dissociation isn't illness, it's consciousness trying to emerge. It's the unconscious signal that the persona you built to survive is no longer enough to actually live. The normalcy they sold you is a sophisticated trap. It offers small doses of pleasure in exchange for your freedom. You gain social approval, a stable salary, family acceptance, but the price is steep. You sacrifice your truth, your inner voice, your spontaneity, and over time you forget who you really are. Jung said that adaptation to society is necessary, but becomes pathological when it demands the abandonment of the self, and that's exactly what happens to millions of people. They live normal lives while emotionally anesthetized, spiritually apathetic, existentially lost. The system rewards obedience with distractions. It gives you streaming platforms, delivery apps, likes, and a false sense of belonging. Also, you never have to ask the question that matters most. Am I living or just existing? We live in a culture that interprets suffering as evidence of failure. If you're in anguish, something went wrong. If you're sad, you have a problem. If you feel like you don't belong somewhere, there must be something wrong with you. But that interpretation is a dangerous lie. Suffering is not a defect to be corrected. It's a signal to be decoded. Jung said that the soul refuses to keep pretending when the moment of transformation arrives. What you call an existential crisis, an emotional collapse, or inner emptiness is, in reality, the beginning of a profound awakening. Chronic fatigue, the feeling of being out of place, the sensation that nothing means anything anymore. All of this is the symbolic language of the psyche saying, you are ready. Ready to shed the persona you've carried for years. Ready to look at your shadow. Ready to become who you actually are, not who the world taught you to be. You might think you're falling apart, but what's falling apart isn't you. It's the character you created to survive. It's the shell that protected you until now, but has become a polished prison. Jung observed that the human psyche intentionally produces suffering as a mechanism of transition. When the ego resists change, the unconscious responds with symptoms: anxiety, insomnia, apathy, rage, confusion. These symptoms aren't obstacles in your path, they are the path. They force you to stop, to question, to look inward. They compel the collapse of the old structure, so that something new can emerge. Society will try to convince you that you need to return to normal. Take a pill, read a self-help book, take a vacation, breathe deep and keep moving. Don't be deceived. That normal is what made you sick in the first place. You don't need to go back. You need to go through. Your pain is a threshold, a symbolic portal. If you resist it, it becomes chronic suffering. But if you listen to it, it becomes initiation. Have you ever felt that certain things reach you at exactly the moment you needed them most? A book that appears out of nowhere. A conversation that hits the exact right nerve. A video like this one showing up in your feed at the moment you're closest to collapse. This isn't coincidence, it's synchronicity. A fundamental concept proposed by Carl Jung to describe what logic cannot explain, but what the soul immediately recognizes as true. Jung understood that the unconscious isn't merely a repository of traumas and repressed impulses. It's a living intelligence, a dynamic system that constantly seeks balance, guidance, and healing for the conscious psyche. When you approach a breaking point, when your soul begins to awaken to a larger truth, the unconscious intensifies its symbolic activity, and it does so using everything around you: dreams, images, emotions, and even algorithms. The external reality begins to mirror the internal transformation. When you're ready, the right symbols emerge. They don't shout, they whisper. They don't convince, they resonate. And you feel, with disarming clarity, that this is meant for you. That this message isn't generic, it's intimate, directed, unmistakable. Jung stated that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. But when you begin to hear the signals, the unconscious stops being a hidden enemy and becomes a subtle ally. It guides you firmly, even if silently. And this video is one of those signals. It didn't appear by accident. It's a response you were unconsciously asking for, even without knowing it. Every real transformation requires a crossing, and every crossing requires a leap. Not a physical leap, a psychic one. The moment when you must abandon the narrative that kept you safe and even if miserable, and walk toward a version of yourself you haven't met yet. Jung compared this moment to the confrontation with the inner dragon, an archetype representing all the fears, doubts, and resistances that arise at the threshold of change. This dragon will tell you that you're insane, that this isn't the right moment, that you're unprepared, that you'll lose everything, that you'll disappoint others, that you'll regret it. It will show you every possible scenario of failure, because it knows that if you leap, it dies, and the ego fears symbolic death more than any pain. But here's the truth almost no one has the courage to say out loud. The fear you feel in this moment is not a warning to pull back. It's a signal to move forward. Fear marks the exact spot where you need to go. You don't need to be 100% ready to leap. Nobody is. You only need to be tired enough of pretending, exhausted enough by the lie, brave enough to say, I don't know what comes next, but I cannot stay here. This is one of the hardest truths to swallow, but perhaps the most liberating of all. No one is coming to save you. No person, no guru, no book, no therapist, no video. No external force will come to pull you out of the place you're stuck in. No savior will come to fix your life, because that responsibility belongs exclusively to you. You were conditioned to wait for someone to recognize your pain, to wait for your partner to change, for your boss to value you, for your family to understand, for the perfect moment to appear, for courage to arrive on its own. But all of that is an illusion. The archetype of the external savior is a trap. It's the voice of the wounded child, who still waits for protection, for comfort, for direction, But you are no longer that child. You are the adult now. And the adult, and as painful as this is, Yida must take control of their own journey. Jung was clear. Individuation cannot be lived by proxy. No one can walk this path for you. Every step must be yours, every choice, every fall, every rebirth. Radical responsibility doesn't mean you are to blame for everything that happened to you, but it means that from this moment forward, you are responsible for not staying where you are. Even if the pain was caused by others, no, the healing depends on you. There is an invisible line separating the life you're living from the life you came here to live. That line isn't made of external obstacles. It isn't made of money or other people's opinions or circumstances. That line is made of fear. And on the other side of that fear, yes, your real life begins. Jung teaches us that fear is not an enemy. It's a gatekeeper. Every time you feel afraid to change, to break free, to take a risk, it's because you're about to touch something sacred. Your true self, the persona you built, polished, functional, smiling one, was useful. It protected you, but now it's a cage. And the key to getting out is in the last place you want to look. Inside the fear, inside the pain you carry, inside the anxiety that haunts you, inside the emptiness you try to fill with distraction. All of it is the soul pushing you toward the life that belongs to you. And you already know this. You know because you felt it throughout this video, because something in you, without being able to explain why, recognized that these words are for you. Not for someone generic, for you. The question now isn't whether you're ready, because you will never feel ready. The question is, will you keep dragging yourself through a life that makes you sick, or will you finally cross over and begin to live for real? No one is coming, there will be no clearer sign. There is no manual, but there is a choice, and that choice is here right now. So leave your mark. A small phrase, a symbolic declaration. Write in the comments, I choose to cross. Not for me, for you. Because naming is invoking, writing is sealing. And this may be the first conscious decision of the new life that's waiting for you. If this video found you when you needed it most, and as I believe it did, keep watching. Subscribe. This channel exists for the people who are willing to face the truth. Especially when facing it costs something. You've already begun, don't stop now.